Yes, close, very close.
Close. How should I have said it?
Uh, if you're Italian, it would be cugno. Anglicized, it's cugno.
Okay. No. I'll try that next time.
Cugno. Well done. Thank you.
So, for Business Insights today, I've invited Robert to the call because he's a coach in career guidance. And as we move towards the end of the year, I think it's a really important question that people start asking themselves about: am I doing the right thing? Am I happy? What should I do with my life? What shouldn't I do with my life? And really, like today's topic is how to achieve happiness and by finding new roles to accelerate your career path. And so, Robert, maybe give us a bit of background. So, what sort of got you into this?
Um, yeah, that's a really really great question. Um, by accident is the best answer. Um, Simply best described, I had a very long, over 20-year career in higher education, with part of that in a teaching role, but then I accelerated through the ranks into leadership roles. And I quite literally got myself to a level where I loved what I did. I certainly loved the title and the trappings, but it wasn't what I was born to do. And I realized that I wasn't happy, and that was affecting my performance at work.
Yeah,
It was affecting my health. It was affecting my relationships. And ultimately, when that contract was up, it was for me. I was done. I
yeah,
couldn't keep doing this, and I couldn't see the next step forward. So I took a break, and I spent a fair bit of time. I had a bit of luxury to spend a bit of time speaking to people
mm,
about what they saw me as, and it kept coming back that um, they saw me as a leader and a coach, and someone who was able to inspire and guide people. So my first attempt at my business was was performance coaching and leadership coaching.
hmm,
But then I realized, again, through conversations with trusted networks, that I hadn't had a normal career. Most of my career acceleration had come through um, inadvertent networking, being in the right position,
yeah,
very few job interviews. And one of my friends literally said, and I quote, if you can bottle your career, you can you'll make a fortune.
mm,
And it was like a light bulb. And the lesson there is listen to what people tell you about yourself. Don't just think you can do this or that. Actually listen and ask them how they see you, because it was that simple quote that launched me into career coaching. So what I did is I rejigged the business away from performance management and performance leadership to career coaching.
yeah.
And that was that was like the breakthrough moment for me. That was where I said yes. And that's what I love to do, because ultimately I know I'm built to teach. I'm a teacher at heart. Part
Yeah.
of the reason I wasn't happy in my role is I was doing something I wasn't built to do.
Mm.
Um, so coaching was the best, the closest I could come back to as a
Yeah.
teaching capacity. And a lot of people, what I learned quickly is a lot of very unhappy people at work.
It is interesting, because I've been in this business coaching world for 20 years, as you're aware, and um,
Yeah,
people like often they say what you ask them, what do they want out of life, and they tell you, and it's not true. It's just not true. They say, "Oh, look, I want to make lots of money so that I can have a better life," and you go, "Well, that's cool." But to make lots of money, you have to have a plan that'll take you there, and you have to execute on the plan. And they go, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." And you go, well, you told me that you want to make lots of money. And they go, no, no, I want to have lots of money. I don't want to make lots of money. It's like,
money.
so sometimes you've got to really drill in. And you touched on something
Yeah.
interesting there where you said, it's, to me, money is a result, right? And when people say, I
Yes.
want to make money, I go, that's fine. But money is a measure of value. So how are you going to create the value? And they scratch their head and go, I don't know, I just want to make money. And it's sort of like saying, well, I just want this fire to keep me warm without putting any fuel in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite
Yeah.
work. So this whole idea of happiness and career path, and one of my favorite quotes of all time in careers is, "You get paid exactly what you're worth."
Yeah.
Right, and it's horrible and brutal, but it's so true. Right, if people want
Mm.
to make more money, just become more valuable. Right,
Yeah.
and if you're not getting
Yeah.
paid what you think you're worth, there's one of two things wrong: either your judgment or their judgment. Right.
Yes.
So if someone's
Yeah.
not paying you what
Very much
you're
so.
worth, go somewhere else. And if you consistently don't get paid what you think you're worth, then maybe there's a common denominator in that equation, right?
Yeah.
So give me a bit of an insight. So you talk to a lot of people about career path.
Yes.
And you realised, you said a comment about how there's so many people that are unhappy with their career choice. How do you
Yes.
navigate this? Like, so where does someone start to sort of assess, obviously, the connection between work and happiness, and then starting to eke out this path and direction?
So thank you. I'm a big believer um, in positive psychology. So everything I do
Yep.
stems from the roots of positive psychology. So positive, and so my approach to working with clients, and to give you an understanding of my clients are um, 24 to 25 to 45-year-old professional people, generally with a degree, working in industries like law,
Mm.
finance, working in banking,
Mm-hmm.
working in the public service, high-end teachers, doctors, not so much doctors, but nurses definitely. So I've got a big chunk of highly professional people,
Yep.
and most of them followed the career that their whether it was HSC, whether it was VCE, but they followed the career that a number told them they should do.
Uh-huh.
And I've got a great story of a lawyer that I worked with, and I said to her, when did you choose to do law? And she said, when I got my results. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I got 99. So you either do medicine or law with 99.
Yeah.
And I don't like blood, so I did law. And I said, hang on a minute, you could do makeup. You would have walked into economics. You would have walked into
Yeah.
every course. But no, her vision imposed upon her through family, through friends, through the school was
Yep.
you're great, you're going to be a lawyer.
Mm.
She was not built to be a lawyer. She made a decision based on what other people thought she should do, but she never stopped to check what her strengths were.
Yeah.
Where do her strengths lie? And that's where I start with all of my clients. What are your greatest strengths? And what do those greatest strengths, what skills do they bring out in you?
Yeah.
And where do you get your achievement, and which achievements do you get greatest sense of reward? And it's that puzzle that always comes back to the connection between working towards your strengths
Yep.
and fostering really effective and powerful skill sets that lead you to um, reproduce that performance. And that comes from a theory developed by Dr. Dan Harrison, which is a diagnostic tool I use, and he created a theory called enjoyment performance theory. So very simple. I actually don't believe it. It's the simplest theory I've ever studied. It simply says that if you are working to your strengths and you are doing skills that are based on your strengths
Yeah.
and tasks, then you're more likely to enjoy doing that. And because you enjoy doing that,
Yep.
you generally want to improve.
Yeah.
People will notice and give you positive feedback.
Yeah.
You'll puff your chest out and go, great, I'm going to get better at this.
Yeah.
And you spiral in an upwards direction.
Yeah.
And then there's the opposite.
Yeah. Which is
Doing stuff you
focus on
don't
your
love
weaknesses.
doing.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's where I start. So I talk to my clients about, where do your strengths lie? And I don't start with the premise, have you picked the wrong job? I start with, let's be positive here. What are you great at?
Mm.
And what skills do you use? And where else can you use those skills? And that's where a client of mine who was a brilliant salesman but hated it ended up being the happiest teacher on earth.
Yeah.
And he would never have made that connection. Neither of us would have made that connection without looking at the skill sets.
Mm.
And where else do I need these strengths and skills? Where else are these strengths and skills exhibited?
Yep.
That can give me reward? And he ended up in teaching.
It's funny when you told that story. I remember being at school, and by the way, I dropped out of high school. I didn't make it. Little known fact.
Whatever that means. But yeah, you dropped out.
What happened was I was at Melbourne High, so a pretty sort of well-to-do school.
Yeah.
And I was in year 11. I was a bit lost, and I was having this confused moment, and I really didn't know what you have to choose. Right, you have to sort of pick your future. Right. Hang on, I'm 17 years old, and I've got to pick what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. That's right.
Weird, right?
Yeah, so then I go to the career counsellor, and this is how it went. She gave me this big fat book, and she goes, here's a list of all the jobs in the world. Have a scroll through it and see if any of those resonate with you. And I sort of looked at her and I said, really? And she goes, well, you sound like the kind of guy that's always going to land on your feet, so you can't make a bad decision. And it was like the most demotivating career guidance, because I walked out thinking, you just told me I can choose anything and it really doesn't matter. but you haven't really asked the question, what am I good at? Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping things have evolved a lot. And from what you're saying, they have, where people are starting to say, well, let's link happiness to career path and enthusiasm and passion, because what happens is it's all about working on your strengths and not worrying about your weaknesses.
Yeah. Can I pick you up there?
Yeah,
It's really interesting because schools use that theory for subject selection,
yeah,
but that's not the advice they're giving in careers.
yeah.
Indeed, my daughter's 21. 5 years ago, yes, so she did this diagnostic tool. Said she should be a dental technician.
Mm.
That required science study. My daughter's not a scientist at all. She's a humanities student. It was so wrong. So yeah, there's different ways of doing it. I don't think schools are advising
It's difficult.
particularly well.
Because I remember
Mm,
looking through the book and I'm saying, oh, there's all these different jobs, but I have no idea what they actually do, right? There's
yeah,
a description,
yep.
but I can't picture myself as being one because I've never met one. And you're trying to tell me I need to make some decisions early. And I
Yeah.
think there's a couple of issues with that. Number one is if you don't know what you don't know. So how do you choose? The second one is that once you've chosen, all of a sudden that's the direction. And you can't
Yes.
change. So year 12, the reason I dropped out is I started the year doing science, and I
Yep.
realised that I'm not academic and science wasn't my thing, and I thought I'd flip over to business. But by the time I'd done that, it was 6 weeks into the year, and it was too late. And they're going, "You can't change 6 weeks in; it's too late. You're never going to catch up." And I said, "Well, I made a mistake. I think I picked the wrong
Mm,
decision." And it was like, "Well, you can't do that." So I was so demotivated. I just said, "I'm done. I'm out." I went to TAFE, and I became an engineer,
yeah.
not even an engineer, a technician.
Yep.
But I found my way. And then the interesting part about this whole story is I became self educated after that, because what I realized is I read about things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And so I've become a prolific reader. And I've sort of read over 1,000 books now on self
Wow.
development, business
Yeah.
careers, because
Yep.
that's my
Yep.
business, right? Now, the
Yep.
reason I do it, people go, "Don't you get sick of reading about business?" I go, "Well, I love it, right? It's fun. I love helping people in business. It actually gives me purpose." And
Yep.
I think like sometimes people need to find their own path, but it's really difficult when you've got a sausage factory called a school that says, "Hey, we've got to get you out the door in 4 years or 6 years or whatever it is, and productive. You got to get a job." And you go,
Yep.
"But that might not meet my expectation of what makes me happy if I don't know what makes me happy." Oh, don't worry,
Mm.
just get through the system and then work it out later.
And then at 17, going back to that lawyer that I was talking about,
Yeah,
there's a lot of self value in making the people around you happy and doing and committing to something.
yeah,
She said to me she knew halfway through first semester she wasn't a lawyer, yet she did 6 years of law. She did her articles
yeah.
and she worked for 5 years, and then imagine the toll that takes on you constantly being in a situation that just doesn't fit with you.
Yeah.
And she came to me, and even then, a couple of times we had a couple of false starts. We said, no, I think I'll just see it out. I said, see what out? What does that mean? To retirement? You won't make it to retirement,
Yeah,
lady. So it is a really interesting point about creating an open mindset
yeah,
and a growth mindset like yourself that says, okay, I don't have to be this for the rest of my life. I can have tastes of things. And I've got a good mate of mine who says to me all the time, he says, Rob, always remember and tell this to your daughter, tell this to any young person you know. Your 20s are for learning and your 30s are for earning. And I think it's a really powerful tool that a lot of people will find career happiness by simply experimenting in that early 20s phase,
yeah.
different roles, different jobs,
Mm.
part time, full time, just to find that thing. So you were very fortunate. You developed a good study habit, you had a really strong growth mindset,
Uh-huh.
and you had the courage to look at yourself and go, "No, I've made an error." And that saying that is, in a career context, that is so big. So
Make it
yeah,
sound, you
well
make
done.
it sound so optimistic and positive. It was really messy at the time.
Of course it was, without a
Yeah,
doubt. It's
yeah.
ugly. It's ugly.
I,
There's
I don't think,
tears.
I don't know. Like when we talk about being fortunate, I think we live in a world, and it's interesting. You can learn anything about anything, right? Just on your phone, right, through YouTube, and so our access to information is untapped. Is sorry,
Yep.
unlimited. And I think what happens is people get confused or overwhelmed, and they go into like almost lockdown, like shutdown, right? They go, I don't know where to look. I don't know what. I don't know. I don't know. And to me, when someone says I don't know, it's sort of like it's like a victim mindset, right? Because it doesn't even make sense that you don't know. You can Google anything. So
Yeah.
if you say I don't know what career to take, type in the question I don't know what career to take, and you'll get like 10,000 videos of people like yourself that are found the light and highly motivated and give some insights. Talking of which, let's talk about what the steps are that you think people should be taking if they're a bit unhappy, if they're a bit disillusioned with their career choice, or they're not even
Okay.
sure. Where do they start?
Um, ring me, email me.
Yeah,
um, so the first starting point is, and this is the first question I ask, is have you got a long history of just not feeling right in your job? Or is it because I just happen to land on a boss I don't get along with? So I speak to a lot of people
yeah,
who think they are in the wrong career
yeah,
and in the wrong job. But what I discover quickly through some good questioning, which is what a coach does, as you know, you just ask good questions. What we discover very quickly is they actually love what they do. They're just in
mm,
the wrong company.
yeah,
So that's different. And so be honest with yourself and understand, have I felt out like a fish out of water or uncomfortable or everything's been a real struggle for a long period of time with the skills and tasks, the skills I need to exhibit
yeah.
and the tasks I have to perform? That's a big, so if you're constantly performance managed, well, that's a big red sign. You don't fit with that role. Um, Reach out to a career coach.
Yeah.
Reach out to someone to speak to. Do not speak to your, oh, well,
Hey, were you going to
I was
say
going to
wife
say,
dead or something?
no, I was going to say, do not speak to your friends
Yeah.
or anyone who has an emotional connection to you,
Yes.
because they're going to try to make you feel better, generally speaking,
Yep.
and they're going to encourage you to, oh, you're great at this, you've got it. You know that, as with friends, we tend to be supportive and rah rah.
Well, they're biased too,
Very
aren't
few,
they? Like you just
absolutely,
suggested. If it's your mum,
yeah,
she's going to be pretty
yeah,
biased about what she thinks.
yeah.
You can be a doctor or a lawyer, Rob.
That's it, exactly. You'll pick one, flip the card.
Yeah.
So speak to a professional. Most career coaches, and I certainly do this, is I offer all potential clients a free consultation.
Yeah.
And that free consultation helps us work out the path forward.
Yeah.
Because with me and the clients I work with clients in three categories. Clients who come to me like the lawyer says, I'm not born to do this. I need to know what I can transition to with
Mm.
a law degree
Yeah.
that will make me happy. So they simply have made the wrong call.
Mm.
That's the I want to give it all up and open a cafe type persona.
Yeah.
The second group of people I speak to and coach is people who say to me, Rob, I think I love my job, but I really, really don't like this business. And can you help me find a business that better fits my values, but doing the same job?
Yeah.
And that's a career change.
Uh-huh.
And then the third group that I work with is still keeping that leadership connection, is people who come to me and say, Rob, I've been sitting at this desk for 5 years, and David used to sit next to me, and Annie used to sit on the other side. Now Annie is David's boss, and David is my boss, and I'm still at the same desk. How do I accelerate? So
Interesting.
they're three different categories of clients that I deal with.
Okay. Can I
And
summarize
and
that back to you? Because
yeah,
what I heard is
please.
three things, right? The first one is short term versus long term, right?
Yes.
So is it just an incident that's caused you to be upset today, or is it
Yep.
a long term, there's no light at the end of this tunnel? The second piece was about value match and saying, well, what's important to you, and is the place that you're working with or the career you're chosen align with what is important to you, values?
Yep.
And the last piece was performance, where I think my values resonate. I think this is a long term career path. I just don't know why I'm not moving forward.
Yes.
Right. So if you sort of look at those three elements, it makes a lot more sense to me to say to
Yep.
someone, well, there's a few things that we need to look at. These are the three steps that we need to assess. It makes sense
Yep.
to get someone who's not connected to you to be objective about this, rather than
Correct.
going to a friend or a family member who's really their primary objective is to console you, not to
Yep.
give you good advice. They probably tell you the things you want to hear, not the things you don't want to hear. Or If they're the other way around, they can be telling you the things you don't want to hear, but not for the right reasons.
Or you're going to them. Oh, what sort of mate are you, David? Like, I don't
Yeah.
expect truth. Don't give me
Yeah,
honesty. Just make me feel better.
yeah. Okay, so really, like, this is a soul searching activity, and I think what today I'd like to sort of plant the seed of with some people is the question mark: is the career path I've chosen the right one for me? And it's not about the money. It's not about the accolades. It's about the values that you have as a person. Because, family is important to me. Then my career becomes potentially secondary to my family. Okay. And I remember, like, when we talked about values, I met this guy one time, and I was coaching a husband-wife team, which is always interesting. And they both agreed that the highest priority in their life was family. That was their biggest value. It's a very ethnic thing, right? It usually comes from Europe.
Yep.
Family number one.
Yep.
I go, no
Yep.
problem. And then I interviewed them separately, and the wife said, my husband's never home. He's always at work. He doesn't care about the family. He's always working. And so she thinks his priority is not family. I talked to the husband, and he goes, I work really hard so that my kids get everything I didn't get in life because they're number one. Right? I go, So it's not even the word family that is a value. It's the interpretation of the word family that's a value. So there's a little bit of digging beneath the surface with values that I think sometimes people, they try and simplify. And they say, family's number one. And I go, okay, explain how that appears in your world.
And that's a really good example. I get that all the time. I hear that as well.
Yeah.
But the next step from values, and and we need to thank Simon Sinek for this, and I mean this with all my heart. I think his pivotal video of his pivotal book, Start With Why, and his video about all of his videos really, but his first one that went absolutely viral on YouTube, that talks about discovering your purpose. And these, to me, I'm at a point where I try not to use those words. They're too cliched. Actually, my clients come to me and go, please help me find my purpose. So I take a slightly different slant, but values, purpose, why. Bottom line, it's that thing that will drive you when times are tough, that you are saying to yourself, no, this is right. I've had 4 years of loving this job and I am excelling. And you're excelling because you're working in your genius zones. You're back to those strengths.
Yep.
Now you have a hump in the road because you've got a boss you don't like, or you lost a case, or whatever it might be, and suddenly you want to change jobs. They're the ones that you go back and you go, no, let's look at your history. This is not driven by, you are in your purpose zone. But it's those people that just go, I hate my job. It doesn't give me anything. And it's that inner glow, that inner warmth, that sense of satisfaction. I had a client of mine. She was a magnificent journalist, worked with a number of big headline journalists as their economics editor.
Yep.
And I remember a quote she said to me. She was a journalist for 22 years. And she said, Rob, I can tell you the 5 days that I was happy.
That's a bit scary.
20, that's real scary. But that is someone who knows that she was not working to her purpose. And once we discovered that, she's now off in a different tangent and having a great time.
So let me ask you a question, right? We're sitting here simplifying how people should choose their path. Why don't they teach this in school?
I'm not the Minister for Education, but if I was, they would.
But there's got to be a reason, right? Because the education system has been around for a long time. And I struggle with this sometimes because I look at it and I go, we have a schooling system. And maybe my theory is schooling system is a training camp for corporate. If you look at the word kindergarten, it was like a garden for children, right? From the old German word.
Yeah.
And the school system is, it's funded by corporate citizens to generate soldiers, right? Yeah. And so they say, go and learn to be an accountant because we need accountants and you'll get a good career and you'll have a long longevity. And that's why you should learn to be an accountant. No, be a lawyer because we need lawyers and lawyers get paid well. And so we have all these career paths that have been created by these large corporations needing those skill sets.
Yep.
So
now it's renewable energy.
Yeah. So and tradies, right? At the moment, there's a tradie shortage. So go to school and become a tradie. Tradies make good money, until there's too many tradies at the other end. But the thing is, that's the agenda's driven by capitalism. It's
Yeah,
not driven by career choice. And I think that the danger there is that people get into the slipstream. I'm going down this path because I have this period of time that I have to make these decisions, and I'm going to come out the end of the sausage factory, and I'll get a job because if I do what they tell me, I'll make money. But then they sort of say I'm here and I'm not happy because I don't think happiness was ever
yeah.
part of that conversation. Mm.
No, and it goes back to what you said earlier about, for me, money's an outcome. It's not a goal.
Yeah,
My view is I earn money so I can travel and do the stuff I love to do that makes me happier.
yeah,
It's not about sitting there and counting it because as they say, you don't take it with you. But going back to your original question, I don't. I, maybe part of it is the fact that the space of career coaching is so new.
mm,
Um, it's a developing field, and the research space in career decision making is new and developing. So
yeah,
maybe it doesn't have the credibility yet to be of equal importance to maths, English, reading, writing, and if you go to a religious school, religion.
yeah.
Maybe that's part of the reason. I don't know, but I totally agree. There should be more effort put into it,
Yeah.
and there should be more special um, specialization in that space
Mm,
rather than just selecting a teacher who might not have a full load or who
yeah,
has a passing interest. Like
yeah,
in my case, to become a career coach, I did two quals. I left my career and then
yeah,
retrained. I made the conscious decision to retrain so I will be the
mm,
best possible career coach I can be.
yeah,
Um, as compared to, and so I question whether that money's there within the schools to do that. The
yeah,
commitment's not, whether it's there, because it's not a measurable. No one is going to say, I chose this school because they got a great career coaching program. They're going to say they've got a great maths program or sports program. So there's a lot of factors. But I agree with you.
yeah.
And I think a lot of schools slowly are beginning to give it a bit more importance and credence. But yeah, more emphasis should be put on it.
So let me ask you books that you would recommend to someone who's in this dilemma. If they're looking for reading, where would you point them?
I would go with there's an excellent book called Strengths 2.0.
Yep.
But because career coaching is such a developing and quickly developing field,
Yep.
I would take, I would go to um, peak bodies like the CDAA, the Career Development Association of Australia, or I would go to Seeker, which is another peak career coaching body.
Yep.
And I would go and connect with them because there's a greater emphasis on workshops, podcasts, and blogs.
Mm.
Because what we're finding with a lot of books is that they don't outdate, but they thinking moves on.
Yeah. Right.
But if you wanted to find someone, the father of coaching is a guy by the name of John Whitmore, Whitmore.
Mm-hmm.
I would read his stuff.
Okay.
If you want to read about how to become a better coach type leader, so if you're trying to coach your teams, then I would read anything shows who that shows you how to use the GROW coaching model.
Mm-hmm.
So GROW is about identifying the goal, the reality, the options, and the way forward. That's a very simple technique. I love it, and
Yep.
it keeps you on focus. I use it all the time.
Uh-huh.
So I would look for that sort of information rather than a particular book as such.
Okay. That's great. That's great. And if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
So they can go to my website. So it's future and the letter U coaching.com.au, or they can reach out via email,
Yeah.
which is robert@futureu.com.au.
Or
And they can also look me up on LinkedIn,
yeah.
either using my name or just typing in Career Coach Melbourne.
Yeah. Fantastic. Robert, I really appreciate your time today. It's a fascinating
Thank
topic,
you.
and I hope someone picked up some insight for either themselves or their family.
Yeah,
Because I think this is one of those questions that really, I don't think you can answer it in a sentence. I think you need to answer it in a journey, which could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or your whole life.
yep,
And
yep,
it's just a question, right? What makes
yeah.
me happy, and how do I turn that into my career? So,
And I've got just two last comments,
yeah,
if I may.
yeah,
One, um, understand that careers as you and I know them from our days have
mm,
changed.
hmm,
This grad, this constantly moving up career is becoming a thing of the past. Younger people should be thinking portfolio careers, doing different things at different times that match their skills.
Yep.
And the second point that I wanted to make about that is the concept of journey,
Yep.
and understanding that you have a very valuable set of skills and strengths, and you have a genius zone, and you can take that to different industries quite comfortably.
Yep.
You just need to know how to talk about yourself and how to speak about yourself. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is if people go to my website, they can download a ebook called The 9 Steps for Finding My Dream Career. And that would be an absolute brilliant starting point, because it's very simple, lots of diagrams, easily expressed, and they can follow that plan, because that plan was my career plan.
Yeah, fantastic.
So that would be
Right.
on my
Thanks
website.
again so much for sharing today. It's been great insights. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. It's been great. Love to do it again.
Cheers.